I used to believe that freedom was the greatest luxury money could buy. And in a way, I still do. Freedom from alarm clocks, from cheap wine, from explaining yourself. Most of all, freedom from expectations, especially the ones involving flowers, anniversaries, and we need to talk. Commitment bored me. Monogamy felt like wearing the same custom suit every single day just because it fit once. I wasn't heartless, just honest. I liked women, sure. But I liked the idea of coming and going on my terms even more. So when my married friends threw their usual jabs at me over grilled steaks and summer beer, I didn't flinch. At first. "You'll die alone," Daniel said with a grin, his arm casually slung around his wife's shoulder. That's assuming he doesn't spontaneously combust if he spends more than 72 hours with the same woman, Rob added, and the table erupted in laughter. 6 months, I said, swirling the whiskey in my glass. That's all it takes, right? For a marriage to count? Daniel smirked. Please, you couldn't last 6 weeks. Hell, 6 days. Leaned forward. "Want to bet?" He looked intrigued. "What's at stake?" "Your Aston Martin. Against my Lambo. I get married. No faking, no fleeing. A 6-month marriage with all the bells and whistles." "Deal," he said too fast. That was mistake number 1. 2 weeks later, I was knee-deep in the strangest project of my life, hunting for a temporary wife. I scrolled through polished profiles, like I was shopping for shoes. Too eager, too desperate, too plastic, too rehearsed. Matchmaking agencies paraded woman after woman in front of me, models, lawyers, daughters of politicians, and yet, not one of them felt remotely real. The idea was starting to rot in my mouth, until fate, wearing aviators and driving a dented silver Audi, decided to crash into my life. Literally. It happened on a Tuesday afternoon. I was sipping espresso in my favorite corner cafe, a quiet Italian joint tucked away from the noisy city heart. Bellucci's had the best view in town, perfect crema, and my car parked right out front, glinting like sin in the sunlight. Then, bang, the kind of sound that makes your stomach clench even before your brain catches up. I turned my head just in. Time to see a slim, dark-haired woman leap out of her Audi like she'd just hit a pedestrian instead of my Lamborghini. She looked horrified. Then she dropped her glasses. Then she stepped on them. Then she froze. It was strangely poetic, like watching someone's entire week collapse in 30 seconds. I stayed inside, observing like a man watching a silent film. When the chaos hit its crescendo, I walked out, still holding my demitasse. "You okay?" I asked. Her head snapped up. Her eyes were beautiful, even behind panic. "I am so sorry." "Oh my God, I didn't mean to. There was a cyclist and then a squirrel, I think, and the brakes are weird on this car." "You hit a Lamborghini," I said, deadpan. "Not a traffic cone." "I know," she cried. "I'll pay for the damages. I mean, eventually, somehow." She looked like she meant it. That was the ridiculous part. Like someone who genuinely thought hard work could fix a dent in a $300,000 car. Then she bent down to pick up her broken glasses, and I heard the tiniest sigh escape her lips. Not from fear, but from defeat. That's when it clicked. Something about her felt unpolished, real, and I hadn't felt real in a long time. "Let me buy you a coffee," I offered. "Least you can do is let me rant while I mourn my poor car." She stared at me like I was speaking Portuguese. "You're not mad?" "Mad? No, just intrigued." Inside the cafe, she sat across from me, fidgeting with the frame of her glasses. One lens was cracked. The other had a footprint on it. "I'm Ava," she finally said. "Nice to meet you, Ava, who destroyed my rear bumper." Her laugh was cautious, but it was real. I asked what she did for work. She hesitated for a split second, then smiled politely. "Just between things right now," she said. "Some freelance gigs here and there." Vague. But I didn't press. At the time, it didn't matter. What mattered was the idea forming in my head. The insane, impossible, completely inappropriate idea. "So," I said slowly, "what if you and I made a deal?" Her eyes narrowed. "What kind of deal?" You owe me, in theory. That scratch on my car is going to take weeks to buff out. I'll survive, of course, but if you really want to make things right, you could do me a favor. You want me to buy you a new car? She asked, incredulous. No, I want you to marry me. Silence. I watched her process it. Confusion, disbelief, amusement, offense. It all flickered across her face like a storm. Okay, what the hell is this? She finally said. 6 months? It's a ridiculous bet, and I need a wife. You're smart, you're presentable, you're clearly not intimidated by me, and bonus, you already owe me one. She stood up. Are you kidding me right now? I'll pay you, I added. Generously. A new car. 6 figures. Total discretion. We get married, attend some dinners, smile for some pictures, and in 6 months, we part ways. She opened her mouth, then closed it again. Her hands were clenched at her sides. Her jaw was tight, but she didn't walk away. You're serious, she said finally. Dead serious. She exhaled and looked away, and for a moment, something flashed across her expression. Something that looked a lot like temptation. 3 days later, she called. I'll do it, she said. But I want everything in writing. Of course. And I get to keep the car even if you end up falling in love with me. I laughed. Darling, I don't fall in love. The wedding was a blur. White roses, champagne towers, camera flashes. She wore an off-the-shoulder silk gown like she'd stepped out of a dream. And I played the part of the beaming groom, hand in hand with the stranger who'd agreed to marry me for a car and a promise. The headlines were wild. Billionaire bad boy ties the knot. Meet his mysterious bride. Every camera wanted a piece of us. Every journalist wanted an angle. Little did I know, one of them already had it. And she was wearing my last name, but that secret was still tucked away, waiting like a storm behind the clouds, living with someone. Sounds romantic until you actually do it, until their voice fills your silence. Their tea bags clog your sink. Their books invade your minimalist shelves, until every part of your perfect routine is bent, stretched, and redefined by someone else's presence. I thought I'd bought myself a contract, a convenience, a chess piece to parade at dinners, pose for photos, and disappear by bedtime. But Ava didn't disappear. She didn't scream or nag or flutter around me like some needy bird. No, she was quiet thunder. She moved into my house like she already knew its rhythm, rearranged nothing essential, but left echoes of herself everywhere. A plant near the sunniest window, a book open on the kitchen stool, an unexpected aroma of cinnamon and cloves after she'd baked something I never asked for, and yet she made no effort to become my wife. She slept in the guest bedroom, always locked the door. She never questioned where I went or who I texted, and she never asked for more than what we agreed on. Still, it irritated me. I'd wake up to find the dishwasher already loaded, my dry cleaning folded, sorted, my schedule color-coded and printed next to the espresso machine, and part of me hated how competent she was at living around me without ever colliding into me. Expected a puppet. What I got was a woman with her own gravity. The first test came during a business dinner at the Grand Marquis downtown. I warned her it would be dull. Corporate snobs in designer suits, partners with too much wine and too little. Exact. She wore a black dress, sleek, simple, dangerous. Her hair was pulled back, her lipstick understated. But when she walked into the room, conversation dipped. Eyes followed. My partners smiled too much. She didn't flirt, she commanded. Not with charm, but with something sharper. Wit. When one of my colleagues made a crude remark about women and negotiation tables, she responded so smoothly I nearly choked on my scotch. I suppose if we left the decision-making to people like you, we'd still be arguing about whether fire is safe indoors. The table went quiet, then roared with laughter. I watched, stunned, as these seasoned wolves leaned in toward her, not away. By the end of the night, my lead investor pulled me aside and said, "Your wife is brilliant. You should let her vet your board." I laughed awkwardly, but inside, something shifted. This wasn't a fluke. It kept happening. At Rob's birthday, she joined our poolside billiard game, barefoot and balancing a wine glass. The guys smirked, expecting an easy victory. She wiped the floor with them, called shots like a hustler. smiled like a queen. Later that night, Rob pulled me aside. Man, I don't know where you found her, but damn, she's something else. I nodded, pretending it was all luck. But it wasn't luck. Ava was extraordinary, and she was starting to occupy more space in my head than I wanted to admit. And then came my brother. He showed up unannounced, dragging his entire joyful disaster of a family with him. His wife, their twins, and their golden retriever, who had no understanding of luxury furniture. They invaded my home like a tornado of love and noise and half-eaten cereal bowls, and Ava didn't flinch. She baked cookies with the kids, let the dog nap in her lap, listened patiently as my sister-in-law ranted about pediatricians and preschool politics. I stood in the hallway one evening, watching Ava braid my niece's hair while humming an old lullaby. The soft light fell across her face. Her voice was warm, low, and so safe. It hit me like a punch in the ribs. I didn't want her to leave. Not just because of the bet, not because of convenience or pride or contract, because I was starting to need her in ways that had nothing to do with money or image or status. But I didn't know how to show it. So I did what I'd always done. I retreated, stayed out later, spent more time at the gym, avoided breakfast, skipped dinner, shut myself in my study with the door half closed, hoping she'd knock. She never did. The silence between us began to ache. And yet, when we appeared in public, at charity events, at press galas, she was radiant, flawless. My friends were dazzled, convinced I'd found the one woman on earth capable of taming me. Only I knew the truth. There was no taming happening. She wasn't trying to change me. She wasn't trying to win me. That's what made it so damn dangerous, because for the first time in years, I wanted to be won. One night, after everyone had gone to sleep, I found her in the garden, sitting on the edge of the stone fountain, barefoot, a blanket wrapped around her shoulders. I stood in the shadows for a while, just watching her, wondering how we'd come to this. A fake wife. A fake marriage, and the most real thing I'd ever felt. They say love makes you soft, that it breaks down your walls, pries open your ribs, and leaves your heart exposed like raw flesh to the elements. They were right. Because somewhere between shared dinners and stolen glances, between pretending and performing, I stopped playing the part, and I didn't even realize it, until I found out she still was. It started as an offhand comment. We were sitting on the balcony, the city glittering. Below us, like someone spilled a box of diamonds, a bottle of wine between us. Her laugh was softer that night, almost nostalgic. Before all this, she said, swirling her glass, I was seeing someone. Briefly. I tilted my head. Before the crash? She hesitated. Yeah. Around then. I nodded. Tried to ignore the strange twinge in my chest. And did he know you got married for a 6-month stunt? She looked away. We ran into each other a few times. A few? She didn't answer. Something in her silence made my blood turn cold. I leaned forward. Did you sleep with him? Her lips parted, but no sound came out. The look on her face said everything. My jaw clenched. So, while you were living in my house, wearing my ring, playing my wife, you were screwing your ex? She flinched. It wasn't like that. The hell it wasn't. I stood up, pacing. My thoughts were wildfire. Rage, humiliation, betrayal, and beneath all of it, hurt. Real, raw, ridiculous hurt, because I cared. More than I wanted, more than I'd planned, and that made her betrayal worse than any business deal gone bad. You could have told me, I said through gritted teeth. We had rules, Ava. This was supposed to be professional. Her eyes narrowed. And what about you? You go out whenever you want. You disappear for hours. You treat this house like a hotel. I never lied to you, I barked. I never pretended to be anything but what I am. She stood now, too, her voice rising to meet mine. I didn't plan this. I didn't expect you to be you. Oh, that clears it up, I snapped. So I was too real for your little act? Poor you. Her face crumpled for a split second. And then she turned away. "I'm sorry," she whispered. But it wasn't enough. I stormed out that night, drove aimlessly through the city, replaying every moment in my head like a film set on fire, the way she laughed with my niece, the quiet nights in the kitchen, the softness in her eyes when she thought I wasn't looking, and all the while, she had someone else. Someone touching her, holding her, kissing her. The thought made me sick. When I came home, her bedroom door was closed. No light under the crack, no soft hum of her playlist like usual. The next morning, she was gone. Her closet, empty. The guest room, spotless. Kitchen, quiet. And on the marble island, folded neatly, was a letter. I stared at it for a long time before opening it. Dear liar. Or maybe that's unfair. Maybe we were both liars from the start. You told me this was just business. I told you I was just a girl who needed a break. But neither of us told the whole truth. You wanted a wife you could parade around to win a stupid bet. And I wanted a story. Not the kind you live. The kind you sell. I'm a journalist. I was, working on a piece about the lifestyle of billionaires. My editor wanted someone real, someone elusive, someone untouchable. That's why I hit your car, not because of a squirrel. Because of a plan. You were my assignment. But then you invited me for coffee. And I didn't expect you to be funny, or oddly kind, or the loneliest man I'd ever met in a room full of everything. And suddenly, it wasn't about the article anymore. But I still lied. I stayed. I got comfortable. I slept beside you in a house I didn't deserve. I smiled for cameras and kissed you on cue, and somewhere along the way, I fell in love with you, which made what I did after unforgivable. I saw him, the man I used to love. I was confused, scared, and for one stupid, selfish night, I made a mistake. I didn't tell you, because I knew what it meant. It meant I wasn't just lying to you. I was betraying you, and myself. So I'm doing the only honest thing left. I'm leaving. I love you. But we built this on a lie. And you can't build something real on broken ground. I'm sorry, Ava. I read the letter 3 times. Then I sat down in the chair she used to curl up in with her tea. And for the first time in over a decade, I cried. I didn't leave the house for days. My friends called. Daniel even showed up at the gate. I ignored them all. Until one night, Daniel banged on the door like the place was on fire. "Open up," he yelled. "I know you're in there, Romeo." I let him in, disheveled and sour. He took one look at me and whistled. "You look like a man who just realized money can't fix everything." I poured him a drink. He sat across from me and leaned back. I knew from the start it was a contract, he said. 6 months, win a bet, blah, blah, but I gotta say, I didn't expect this. Didn't expect what? That you'd fall for her. That it would hurt this much. I said nothing. He took a sip. "That's how you know it's real." And that was the moment I realized it didn't matter how we started. What mattered was what I wanted next. And I wanted her. No contracts, no bets, no lies, just Ava. There's a silence that follows heartbreak, not the loud, dramatic kind. Not the one with broken glasses or slammed doors. It's the kind that crawls into your bones, that makes every room feel bigger, every noise too loud, every meal tasteless. It's the sound of her absence, and it was everywhere. She was gone, but her fingerprints were still on my life. The faint cinnamon scent on the guest room pillow. The way the house plants leaned toward the sun, because she remembered to rotate them. The half-finished book on the coffee table, folded open to a page I couldn't bring myself to read. I didn't sleep. I didn't eat. Work calls went unanswered. Meetings got canceled. I sat in the dark, wondering how a lie could hurt so damn much if the feelings were real. Daniel came over again. This time he brought backup, Rob and a 6-pack of something too cheap for my kitchen. They barged in like a rescue mission, found me in sweats, unshaven, and 30% coffee. "You're alive," Rob said flatly. "You look like you lost a custody battle with a raccoon." Daniel dropped onto my couch and glanced around. "Still no Ava?" I didn't answer. "I knew it," he said after a pause. "From day one. It was a contract. I turned toward him slowly. You knew? He shrugged. We all knew. You suddenly get married to a complete stranger with zero backstory, and you think we wouldn't notice? Come on, man. So why didn't you say anything? Because for the first time in years, he said, his voice gentler now. You looked happy. And maybe the way it started was fake, but whatever you two had, that wasn't. Rob nodded. You fell for her, man, and unless you plan to grow old with that espresso machine, you should go get her. How? I asked, bitterness creeping in. She lied, slept with someone else, she walked out. And you pretended she didn't exist for the first 2 months, Daniel shot back. She wasn't the only one playing a role. He wasn't wrong. For once, neither of them were. I didn't know where she went at first. Her phone was off. Her apartment was empty. Mutual friends, few as they were, had no idea, but I remembered something from her letter. She said she'd pitched an article about me. A profile piece. A story with a deadline, and I remembered a name she dropped once. Harper and Lyon, a mid-sized media outlet known for in-depth lifestyle reporting. So I started there, and 2 days later, I found her. The office was on, the 7th floor of a building that smelled like printer ink and too many dreams. I walked in wearing my best suit, holding a bouquet so large I had to turn sideways through the elevator. The receptionist blinked when she saw me. I'm here to see Ava. Do you have an appointment? I have a history. She hesitated, then nodded toward a hallway. Last door on the left. I opened the door slowly. She was sitting at her desk, typing. Same messy bun, same ink-stained fingers, same woman who ruined my car and then ruined my solitude. She looked up, froze. Ava. Her eyes widened. What are you doing here? I stepped in, closed the door behind me, held out the bouquet. I came to return the favor. She stared. You crashed into my car, I said. Now I'm crashing into your life. She let out a shaky breath. Listen, I said, walking closer. You lied. You hurt me, and I probably deserve some of it. No, she whispered. You didn't. Let me finish. I reached into my pocket, pulled out the box, the real one. No contracts, no lawyers, no conditions, just a ring. I thought I knew everything. I thought love was weakness, that you could buy safety with detachment. I opened the box, but then you showed up. Chaotic, uninvited, impossible. You didn't ask for anything. You didn't try to change me. You just were. She stared at me, eyes glassy, mouth trembling. I'm not asking you to forget what happened, I said softly. I'm asking you to believe that somewhere between all the pretending, something real happened. Silence. Then her voice, low and cracked. You're serious? I've never been more. Her hands trembled as she reached for the bouquet. Then she dropped it on the floor and threw her arms around me. I caught her. She cried into my chest, and I held her like a man who'd finally come home. We went back to where it all started. Bellucci's cafe, my old table, 2 espressos between us, no scripts, no photographers, no contracts, just Ava. Laughing at something I said, her hand brushing mine. That look in her eyes, not the one from the wedding, the real one. This time, there were no lies between us, no countdowns, no bets, only beginnings.